An American president has just threatened to end a civilization. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Narativ. This is a special report. This morning on Truth Social, Donald Trump doubled down on the ultimatum he issued from the White House yesterday. Tonight, he said, Tuesday, 8 p.m. Eastern, surrender, or every bridge, every power plant, every hospital in Iran goes dark. 93 million people pushed into the Stone Age by a deadline. Well, this is the tweet today, or the Truth Social. A whole civilization will die tonight, never to be brought back again. I don't want that to happen, but it probably will. However, now that we have a complete and total regime change where different, smarter, and less radicalized minds prevail, maybe something revolutionarily wonderful can happen. Who knows? We'll find out tonight. One of the most important moments in the long and complex history of the world. 47 years of extortion, corruption, and death will finally end. God bless the great people of Iran. Of course, he's using those very same tactics, death, corruption, and extortion to get what he wants, if he gets it, and he's not likely to get it. From Iran, we're hearing there is no defeat, no regime change, and certainly not the end of civilization. Let's take a look yesterday at what he said in the most audacious threat we've heard from a president to date against any nation around the world. This was Donald Trump yesterday with his ultimatum.
Where every bridge in Iran will be decimated by 12 o'clock tomorrow night, where every power plant in Iran will be out of business, burning, exploding.
Bombed into the Stone Age. That's what he said. He was going to take away their power grid, take away their bridges, make it impossible, really, for people to eat, to travel, to keep hospitals open. You know, when you have that kind of blockade, food runs out fast, refrigerators aren't working, so things go rotten quite quickly. Civilization begins to disappear quite quickly. Survival is the new mode of importance for everybody in those kind of situations. And that's where he's threatening to send Iran back into the Stone Age, into a survival mode. Now, is he being serious? Yes, he's being serious. The indication from the White House is that they are not taking anything off the table, meaning if the Iranian regime does not comply and open the straits by tonight at 8 p.m., there will be some sort of strike against power plants and against bridges happening tonight. Now, it won't be all the bridges in Iran. That will be strategically, not smart, but also potentially a war crime. So what he's threatening there is not likely to happen, but something might happen tonight. This is the kind of thing Donald Trump specializes in, creating chaos for television. So we're all completely consumed by what is going on, even though the reality of the situation on the ground is very different, of course. Iran is not being defeated. Otherwise, we wouldn't be needing this ultimatum. In fact, Iran and the regime are still very much in place, and they have no interest in removing the blockade they currently have against some vessels in the Straits of Hormuz. But that really is not the issue. That's really the number one priority here. Why did Donald Trump decide to go on this excursion, as he calls it, into the Iranian war? And the answer is about money, 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 and oil, oil, oil. These are the things that drive Donald Trump. And tonight we'll show you exactly how his interests align with Vladimir Putin and Bibi Netanyahu to make sure that this war is using American troops and American firepower in order to secure oil for our adversaries. Donald Trump basically admitted all of that yesterday at his press conference. Take a look at a couple of clips that really stood out to me. Here's one of them where he talks about the American people not being behind him. Take a listen to him describing his priorities from his perspective.
Man first, with Venezuela.
He's a businessman first. And I think that's exactly the way he thinks. He thinks about making money for himself and for his business partners because he's a businessman first. He's not a president first. And then he added this clangor, which really tells you what this war is all about.
You know that. Victor, go the spoils. And we don't have that. We haven't had that in this country probably in 100 years.
Because over the last 100 years, there's been a rules-based order around the world. Countries don't do this. That's how we have relative peace. That's what the United States has brought the world since the Second World War. Now Donald Trump is going to change all of that, and he's going to do to the victor go the spoils, which of course is counter to what American foreign policy has always been about.
Trump is one of those guys. He's an ignorant, he is the stupidest level soldier that is in the armed forces. We have this saying, he's the reason we carry, range controllers carry loaded guns on the shooting range. Because some dumbass will get up with a machine gun and turn around and start shooting up in the air. Woo! Right? And it's the range controller's job to resolve that. Donald Trump is a drunk monkey with a machine gun shooting up in the air. Him and Pete Hegseth are dancing around each other, shooting up in the air.
Him and Pete Hegseth are dancing around each other, shooting up in the air. Like crazy people, not because they want to protect your security, not because they care about foreign policy, not because of any of that stuff. They are using American firepower to personally profit. And so they're oil syndicate profits. And that is a key distinction that we need to understand as we go through this. This is not about security. This is not about some imminent attack that was about to happen to America. Iran was not going to be able to do anything existential to America before or now, of course, even now that they've been weakened a lot, but they weren't intending to do anything like that. The whole thing here is about making money. It's about being a businessman first. That's what Donald Trump is, and Donald Trump will always be that. Most people will tell you that this war is about Israel. That is about Trump's AIPAC, the alliance, you name it, that the GOP and some others are all bought up by Israel. But let's be clear, this war is heavily backed by Netanyahu. Of course, this is his fantasy war. This is what he's wanted all along. And yes, it of course has a lot to do with Israel. But what it has to do with Israel is very important, because this is also all about oil for Israel. The Eilat Ashkelon pipeline was built in 1968 in a secret partnership between the Shah of Iran and the state of Israel. You can see it here. This is how it flows from Eilat, which is, of course, the southernmost point of Israel, to Ashkelon, a very important port city in Israel, and then also flows from there all the way up to Haifa, the other big port city in Israel. These are very crucial for the oil revenue that Israel gets from shipping. Up until 1979, the revolution in Iran took place then, of course. Before that, from 68 to 79, the pipeline was a key conduit for Iranian oil to get to Europe and the West. Iranian oil pumping through Israel to get to the West. Now, after the 1979 revolution, when we were all told it's all over, the actual partnerships continued. Israel kept pumping Iranian oil, sometimes through shell companies, and in other times through oil that was relabeled or reflagged under different countries. And as recently as 2 years ago, they struck a deal with the UAE, which now takes Iranian oil, reflags it, and brings it into Israel, and then from Israel into the Europe and the rest of the world. So here's another look at how that happens. The oil leaves Iran, sometimes flagged as UAE oil now. Before it was other offshore holdings and private companies. And prior to that, it was officially Iran oil under the Shah of Iran. It goes through the Straits of Hormuz and then takes a right turn past Oman, past Yemen, and all the way up the Red Sea to Eilat. And from Eilat, it gets transferred over to the pipeline, which takes it to Ashkelon or Haifa. This is a crucial, important thing that people forget about Israel. Israel is part of the global oil syndicate. Yes, this is about terrorism and Hezbollah and Gaza and all those other things, but it's also about oil. Israel is very keen on reactivating that pipeline directly with Iran, capturing a full amount of Iranian oil. Plus, already it has deals with Russia, it has deals with the UAE and Saudi Arabia. This is Israel's long-term ambition. And right now, every player who's involved in this war against Iran wins. Let's take a deeper look at that. You've got Saudi Arabia and the Emirates. They want a westbound route for their crude oil that doesn't go through the Straits of Hormuz. And of course, they get that with Israel's pipeline. Then you've got Iran, which even when the regime is changed, or even if it's not changed, Tehran is looking to find a way to move its full volume of oil through the Eilat Ashkelon pipeline all the way to the west. And that's why oil is so important to Israel. That's why Bibi is so invested in all of this. That's why Putin is so invested in all of it. And that's why Donald Trump is so invested in this. It's about the pipeline. It's about the geography. It's about getting oil from the east to the west, where the big prize is. And it's about making sure that Iran is cooperating with this oil syndicate and that the rest of the world is in favor of that cooperation. That is the reason there'll be more violence and more bloodshed for days to come, because this is about oil. This is about this pipeline. It's about ensuring that they can get as much Iranian and Russian oil to flow through Israel without there being such an outrage about the human rights record or the conditions in either of those countries. What they really care about is oil and the price of oil going up and access to those markets. So this isn't three countries that are in conflict. This is one syndicate flying three flags, maybe four, maybe five flags. And remember, the oil prices, as they go up, work for all of them. They all get a benefit as Brent crude price goes up. These countries, Israel, Russia, and the United States get a benefit, but so do Iran, Saudi Arabia, the UAE, and the other big oil-producing companies around the world. There's a New Jersey company called Genie Energy, and it holds the only license on Earth to drill in the occupied Golan Heights. Let's show you what that looks like again on this map here, because it really is telling. When you see the Golan Heights, the intersection of Syria, Lebanon, and Jordan, that is a very vital piece of real estate that has an enormous amount of oil in it. And as it turns out, a New Jersey company named Genie Energy is the owner of the licenses to drill there. And look at who's on the advisory board. Dick Cheney, Rupert Murdoch, Jacob Rothschild, James Woolsey, Larry Summers. Some of these names we've seen pop up in the Epstein files. Others we just know, like Dick Cheney has been prosecuting a war in the Middle East for a long time. But when he was vice president, and one wonders if Liz Cheney is inherited heir to all of that fortune that might come out of Genie Energy if the Golan Heights are to be drilled. There's also the Jacob Rothschild. Isn't that interesting to see a Rothschild name? We've been talking about that in relation to the Epstein files. And there's another name in here connected to the Epstein files, Larry Summers, that's been bought off in the United States in order to use our American firepower, just like Halliburton did in Iraq, to use America's firepower in order to get access to